Seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Cool. All right, it's 9 o'clock on this Wednesday, October 15th. That means
already
it's
halfway
time for
through.
I know,
Can you believe
already
it?
halfway through. That means it's time for the Live Zone Primetime Night 3. I'm producer Chris. This is Tony P. Thank you so
going
much
on, everybody?
for joining us. We
We're
are
doing.
live streaming on YouTube. This is our soft launch week. But as always, you can be a part of this show. If you are watching on a connected TV, that little QR code in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, that is what you can scan, and you can join our Zoom room. You can weigh in on all the topics we're talking about, and you can
Sure
weigh
can.
in on anything you think we should be talking about. We'll make it a conversation. In the meantime, Tony P, what's going on?
How we doing, my friend? I kind of made a weird face here as I circled around that QR code. By the way, tonight for the rundown, I'm shaved after 5 days.
You shaved after 5 days.
I look beautiful.
Is this, you do look handsome.
You know, I feel
cut.
like a clean cut today,
Yeah,
and I got a
exactly.
clean
that's
cut.
The Tony P. That's the Tony P look.
Right, and I got a clean cut rundown for you
Listen,
folks on this
before
evening.
we dive into that, just a reminder what
Yes.
this show is. If it's
Yes.
live, if it's happening now at all over the next 60 minutes, we will bring it to you.
Exactly.
Right now, we're keeping an eye on a couple different live streams. But in the meantime, Tony P, let's talk about what you are watching tonight.
All right, this evening, here's what I have for you folks. So the government shutdown, we don't all know what that is at this point. Hits day 14 here in Washington, and Washington is running out of patience. The Senate once again failed to pass a funding deal. The House is pushing to use Pentagon dollars to keep troops paid, and agencies from the IRS to the Smithsonian remain shuttered today, a symbol of gridlock stretching coast to coast. Overseas, the Gaza ceasefire is holding at this moment, but barely. Israel confirmed it received the remains of 4 hostages, though one was misidentified, and now is demanding Hamas honor its pledge to return all captives. Aid convoys continue to trickle through Egypt as President Trump called it a fragile but vital step towards lasting peace. Back home today, an extraordinary scene at the Pentagon. Major news outlets including Fox News, the New York Times, AP, CNN, and Reuters have rejected the new press access rules in the Pentagon requiring reporters to sign restrictive contracts or lose credentials. By midday today, dozens of journalists had turned in their badges and walked out of the Pentagon headquarters rather than agree to the limits of what they could report or ask. A dramatic standoff over press freedom today. In the courts, a federal judge blocked the administration's plan to lay off 4,000 employees, ruling it overstepped shutdown authority. And at the Supreme Court today, justices remained and signaled skepticism towards a key provision of the Voting Rights Act, a case that could reshape how districts are drawn across the South. On Wall Street, markets were choppy today as renewed tariff threats against China rattled investors. The Dow closed flat while the S&P and NASDAQ dipped a little slightly today. In the pop culture world today, Taylor Swift's new album, you all know it, The Life of a Showgirl, smashed records. 1.3 million vinyl copies sold in its first week, reinforcing her reign as the biggest artist in the world, depending on who you ask. And in a feel-good story today out of Los Angeles, veterans and adaptive athletes came together today for a free Angel City Sports Golf Clinic, finding strength, community, and a few perfect swings on the green. And finally, in the world of pop culture as well, Meghan Markle took the stage at the Fortune Most Powerful Women Summit in D.C., opening up about leadership, motherhood, and reclaiming her voice. And that is the Tony P. Rundown on this Wednesday, October 15th. Producer Chris.
All right, that's not too shabby. We're going to talk much more, of course, about the shutdown. We're going to talk much more about that Voting Rights Act. We're going to talk about the Virginia gubernatorial race,
Yes,
the
very
Attorney
local
General
stuff.
debate that's scheduled for tomorrow. We're also going to talk about all kinds of other stuff, including President Trump. Let's take you out to the White House tonight because that's where President Trump just wrapped up some remarks a little earlier tonight. He was hosting a dinner, that dinner for some mega donors, for a lack of a better phrase. He was hosting a ballroom dinner, as a matter of fact, at the White House. Among the guests, those who have donated money towards that $250 million ballroom project. Representatives from Microsoft, Meta, Google, and Amazon all attending that event. This got underway right around 7:30. It just wrapped up before we came on air here around 8:30. So according to the invitation, the dinner was intended to help, quote, establish the magnificent White House ballroom. The White House has said the construction will be privately funded by donations. We have talked about that before. Let's get out to that live picture of the White House so I don't need to leave you hanging here in the meantime. All right, in addition, once finished, the ballroom expected to hold more than 650 seats and would add at least 90,000 square feet of space to the White House floor plan. However, the president also talked about his possible plan to build an arch near the Lincoln Memorial. He even showed off some designs for it. So I want to take you back to the president's remarks, and it's going to start right when he's talking about that arch.
You know, they were building the Washington Monument, then they stopped, and you could see where they stopped because the stone is a little different color when you get up to it. But anyway, they stopped here. And then they were, in 1902, they were going to put a statue of Robert E. Lee up. Would have been okay with me. A lot of people wouldn't have liked it. Would have been okay with me. Would have been okay with a lot of the people in this room, but they didn't do that. And so for years and years it sat, and every time somebody rides over that beautiful bridge going right to the Lincoln Memorial, it's so beautiful, right? It's, they literally say, something's supposed to be here. And so we have versions of it, sizes of it, and it's going to be really beautiful. I think it's going to be fantastic. There's a rendering of what it will look like. You have three sizes. That would be the largest one. This is just a model of what it would look like in either of the three, any of the three sizes, which is right here. I don't know if you can see it. So that's Lady Liberty. Did you ever hear of Lady Liberty? On top. But, so the sizes would be very different. Now here's Lincoln. And this is sort of facing this way. And so we might take the direct line. They did this, they didn't do that. So this would be, I go, small, medium, and large. Medium and large. And whichever one will look good. I happen to think the large looks much better. Why are you shocked to hear that? So we're going to, just do something for the city. I'm so proud of what we've done with crime. This is a very safe city now. This went from a very unsafe city where you were afraid to go out to dinner to a city that's extremely safe. The people that we have working on this, it's been a miracle almost. It took 12 days. We took out 1,700 people, brought them back to their countries from where they came. Many of them were let in through the Biden open border, brilliant thing, where they let people in from jails, from prisons and mental institutions. Insane asylum, that's a mental institution on steroids. And I mean, they were literally emptying out insane asylums into our country. This is Venezuela, but other countries also, not only Venezuela. And speaking of Venezuela, we've, we have a lot of drugs. We had a lot of drugs coming in by water. And that stopped. In fact, nobody wants to go fishing anymore. Nobody wants to do anything near the water. They might have a beautiful boat, and they might as well get rid of their boat because they are very nervous about going on the water. It's been amazing. So now we were having literally a subway train of people and drugs. A lot of them coming from Venezuela. A lot of them come from Mexico and Colombia too, in all fairness. But we wanted to knock out one track, and I can tell you we cannot find anybody anymore. We're looking down there, there's not a boat on the entire ocean that we can see outside of the ocean liners, and even they're a little bit concerned about it. But it shows you the power and the strength and the technology of our great military. We have, I rebuilt the military in my first term. We had a great first term with the best economy ever. We had a rebuilding of the military. We had the big tax cuts and the all of the assets of the tax cuts, including the 1-year depreciation. You write it off for 1 year. Now we have better under the great big beautiful bill because we have no tips for, think of this, you have no tax on tips and you have no tax on Social Security, and you have for your workers, you have no tax on overtime, It's really a middle, I would say a middle of the road bill from the standpoint of who is it representing. It's the workers. It's the biggest bill ever passed in the history of Congress. And I'm glad we did, because we don't need any more bills. We have everything in that one. Plus we have the deductibility every single year for 10 years. The other one had it for 1 year. You had a rush. This year, this time you don't. Actually, I was in favor of rushing because that's awfully good for elections, but it's not about elections. It's awfully good. So you have deductibility. You have so many different things. We have great social programs, $50 billion going to rural hospitals. So the great, big, beautiful bill, and we got it all in one. I was very happy because we had little arguments about that. A lot of people wanted to do it in small chunks. I said, if you do it in small chunks, you'll never get it approved. You'll get some approved, but not all of it, and not even close. You get much less, I would say less than 30%. So they've never done this before. They put every single thing that I wanted for 4 years in one bill. And we call it, some people call it different. I call it the great, big, beautiful bill, because that's what it is. And this will keep us, what we want to manage it now. We're going to manage it. All you have to do is that, but we got it all approved. And one of the things I thought, though, while I do, because it's so relaxing for me, real estate is relaxing. For a lot of people, real estate is a very trying business. I've always liked it. I've always done well with it. I love building things. And this way, I can build some beautiful things. And this, again, has never been built, and we're going to start that pretty soon. It's going to be great. And then the ballroom for the White House is the thing that you people have really, really been very generous with. And we're going to build a room that's going to be able to hold literally the inauguration if we want. All of the glass on the sides is bulletproof. It's 999 people it can hold. So if we figure we have 125 people in here approximately now, which I've never seen before. I've always heard it's less than 100. But it's amazing when you have too many people, you can fit them in. You know, you can always fit a few more people in. And pardon the fact that you're a little tight at your table. That's okay. That's better than lots of room for everybody because nobody shows up, right? But you've been so generous in your contributions, very substantial money, fully financed. It's fully taken care of now. And in fact, we'll have money left over, and we'll use that for something. We'll use that probably maybe for the Ark or something else that will come. But we love to fix up Washington. If you went to the Oval Office, you'd see the Presidential Walk of Fame. And you've heard about it. And with the exception of one particular picture, there's no controversy. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. It's this beautiful long wall that existed for, it's just literally a wall with half windows on top. And that was originally built as a swimming pool. Now it's where the press is, on the other side of the wall. And it's very interesting. All these people over here with all their cameras, although they've been very respectful, I'll tell you what, they've been very respectful for what's taken place over the last week. So I want to thank you. This is just a small little group. They have a big group downstairs. They have a lot of reporters downstairs wanting to be where they are. I don't know. These, I guess, are you special? This is Doug, who's he won the highest awards there is in photography, including Pulitzer Prizes, right? He won many Pulitzer Prizes for his great work. One that I wasn't so happy with, he had one with a bullet moving along. He caught the bullet. Can you believe this? He got another Pulitzer. But anyway, it's great to have you, gentlemen. It's really good. They have a whole group downstairs, a big group downstairs. I didn't think you'd like to have that up here because it can be.
All right, so that was President Trump earlier tonight speaking at this ballroom dinner, talking about his plans for the ballroom on the White House grounds. He also talked about potential plans for that arch by the Lincoln Memorial. And Tony P., that caught your eye.
You know, I have a few ideas. I have a few ideas. You know, I wanted to be an architect when I was about 6 or 7, like Costanza and Seinfeld. Mm-hmm. You know, make me an architect, Mom. So I have a few ideas. First of all, here's my rendering of his arch. We got the small, medium, large.
Yeah,
like
that's your camera
there
right
we go. Small, medium, large, like McDonald's. And then what else we got? We could do a Happy Meal version of that, too. Mm-hmm. Also, I walk the tidal basin every morning now. I would like a nice land bridge in the basin to go across from the MLK Junior Memorial
That's a
to the
great idea.
Jefferson. I love that. I could also have an airplane viewing section for when I watch the planes land besides Bradley Point. Oh, my favorite one, okay? This I'm really proud of. We don't have enough hot tubs here in D.C. We have none of them, okay? I call it the Lincoln Spa and Bar, okay? Look at this. We got on the top of the Lincoln Memorial, we got the chairs, lay out nice on a good day. Nice bar, a lot of Diet Cokes could be served there. And then we have 1 or 2 beautiful hot tubs, saltwater hot tubs, or a heated pool, whatever you want. Anybody in D.C., President, you're watching, I will be the architect of these new things, because we can use our monuments to have some more attractions here in
Tony
D.C.
P, always thinking. This guy, this guy is so busy. He's already thinking of plans for what the president can do. Speaking of construction around the White House, I want to take you to some new video just into Fox 5. This is from Josh Rosenthal and his crew. So this is fencing going in around the White House. So if you have been following along, you know there are planned protests this weekend, the No Kings protests. We don't know that this fencing is going up around the White House because of that, but Josh says that would seem to make a lot of sense. So this is new video just in from our crews out in the field tonight. Josh Rosenthal will have much more on these No Kings protests planned for this weekend coming up on Fox 5 News at 10 and 11 tonight, Tony.
Absolutely. And when you look at, again, the trend of this White House has been very barricaded even since the inauguration for some construction items with the inauguration, then the changing of the parade route. And that kept the White House area closed for a while in January and February. Then also those repairs being done, of course, with the Rose patio, and now with potentially all the new stuff coming with the ballroom. But there's also been a ton of security measures put in place. It has been very difficult to walk around the White House. When I moved here in 2022, and during the Biden administration, I was able to walk a decent amount, pretty close to the White House, do the whole tour thing, see the different items there, and it's not been that way. I mean, it's a very, very difficult to go from at the top, I think it's 16th Street, and then go all the way down to the kind of courtyard area where all the benches are. You can't go much further than that. Even that is restricted sometimes. Lafayette Park. Sorry, I missed that. You can't even go into that area sometimes. So it's been blocked off for a while now. And again, even if you're coming off from across from Old Ebbitt Grill, you cannot get through there anymore. I remember going to events in 2022, 2023, and it was easy to go in and out of there. Now it's totally just blocked off. And that, again, that could be because of the heightened protests over the last 6 months. That's also having to deal with this upcoming No Kings protest, which the organizers are saying is going to be its biggest ever, and is going to really, I would say, completely really go above what they had back. I think it was March or April. They had the first protest, and it was solid here in D.C. I live right in the middle of it, and it was really a good turnout. This is going to be even bigger across Arlington as well as downtown D.C. and around the big cities. So that is the reason, I think. And again, if you look at the trends,
seems like a safe
bet. Speaker Johnson was mentioning the protests today. It's an anti-America rally. They're trying to get ahead of this from a messaging perspective. So that tells me, as an analyst, that it's going to be a pretty big protest. So that's
we're going to talk a lot more about House Speaker Mike Johnson coming up. We're going to take a quick break, though. It is 9:17 on this Wednesday night. Much more Live Zone Primetime coming up on the other side of this quick break. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back to the Live Zone Primetime on this, what is it? It is Wednesday night. I keep forgetting already.
I'm getting
even
it
though
too.
I shouldn't. Hey, we just got an AP News alert in, and I just want to give you a quick update. Right now, one of the largest airlifts in Alaskan history is underway to evacuate hundreds of people from storm-devastated coastal towns. We have been talking all about some of those West Coast storms earlier this week with Mike Thomas. He'll have much more on this coming up on Fox 5 News at 11. We'll keep our eye out for some live pictures, but I just wanted to bring you that quick update about what is going on out west.
Wow.
Obviously, thoughts and prayers with everyone out there and what's going on with that horrible weather and those rescue efforts underway.
Sending many prayers. Again, you look at that, in Alaska, West Coast, we're also seeing monsoon season kicking up even in the later stage of it. Usually it's happening in August, September. Again, I've been to Arizona a few times, and I've been part of a monsoon dust storm. Those things are scary. Too many people are in danger with those. That is still ramping up in the Phoenix area, and I'll tell you, this is crazy. Seeing the nor'easter early this year, what does that look like for the winter? And is this going to be another brutal winter?
The A's are 51, the Nays are 40.
I'll go ahead and turn that off for you. Sorry about that, Tony P. All right, in the meantime, let's get back to our other big story tonight.
It's important.
And
It's a shutdown.
of course, is the shutdown. Day 15 now of the shutdown. Taking a live look at both the White House and the Capitol building in the meantime. Listen, there's been a lot of talk about what's happening on Capitol Hill. The vote for a Republican bill that would fund the government, that failed for the ninth time.
Right, it's 9 now.
The ninth time today.
My goodness.
The bill would have funded the government until November 21st. After it did not receive the 60 votes needed to pass, Republicans would likely need to win over 5 additional senators. We have been talking about this for days now, to vote in favor of the bill for it to succeed. Also today, Tony, you mentioned this earlier, a judge ordered the Trump administration to halt its firing of federal workers during the shutdown. A new poll out today shows there's plenty of blame to go around for the government shutdown. A survey by YouGov and The Economist shows that 39% of Americans blame President Trump and the Republicans, 33% point to Democrats, 20% say both sides are equally at fault. Negotiations seem to have ground to a halt. We've talked about that as well. Senate Republicans want to pass a House resolution. Democrats say the deal should help Americans with COVID-era health insurance subsidies, which would increase premiums. Earlier today, party leaders from both sides speaking out to the press. We want to take you to House Speaker Mike Johnson first.
Welcome, everybody. We're on day 15 of the Democrat government shutdown. Not a good day on Capitol Hill, not a good day across America, because real Americans are feeling the pain due to the Democrats' political nonsense. And we want to specifically focus this morning on one area that's gotten a lot of attention, and one segment of the population that truly deserves better treatment than the Democrats are giving them, and that is our military. Today, if it weren't for the bold leadership of President Trump helping us to protect our military, everyone needs to understand that 1.3 million active duty service members would be missing a paycheck. They'll get their check, thankfully, because President Trump has shown strong leadership. And under his direction, the Department of War has now redirected unspent funds to ensure that our troops are taken care of. And this is while Democrats are playing political games. Last night, they played some games. They stormed my office. Maybe you saw some of the video online that they themselves shared, or someone did. They berated a Capitol Police officer, screamed at him. He was just merely standing his post. Shows again their disdain for law enforcement, as we see all around the country, the Democrats and everyone in that party screaming, assaulting ICE officers. They did it right here in the Capitol last night. A few members of Congress went into the little foyer of my office and tore down a sign that I had up and just engaged in all sorts of political stunts and antics. They've been doing that every day now, and it shows their desperation. It also shows a very strong contrast between the party that is working for the people and trying to keep the government open and do the right thing, and the party that is engaging in all this nonsense. But they've shown by their actions and now their votes multiple times now, 9 times the Democrats have voted, counting the House and the Senate Democrats, they have voted to not pay the troops. They have voted to block their paychecks. And it's very serious stuff, and they don't seem to care at all. The problem we have right now is that in spite of President Trump's heroic efforts to make sure they get paid, that is a temporary fix. because the executive branch's help is not permanent. It can't be. And if the Democrats continue to vote to keep the government closed, as they have done now so many times, then we know that U.S. troops are going to risk missing a full paycheck at the end of this month. And that means service members on deployment who've left their young families back home, relying upon these checks. It means service members who are thousands of miles away from home. It means service members trying to make their rent, and those who have ailing relatives that need to be taken care of. None of those people will be paid if the Democrat obstruction continues. And it should outrage every American, because it does us. Democrats in Congress, again, have voted 9 times. Here's the tally. Every single time the Republicans have voted to pay the troops, and by the way, all other federal employees, federal workers, and the Democrats have voted over and over to stop it. And the depressing irony of this, on this particular subject, among all others, is that the most pro-shutdown Democrats actually represent the most active duty service members back home.
House Republicans shut the government down. Then they ran out of town. And for the last 3 weeks, they're nowhere to be found. What more can I say? You deserve better. You deserve better. The American people deserve better. House Democrats are fighting to lower the high cost of living. House Democrats are fighting to fix our broken health care system, and House Democrats are fighting to clean up corruption. To deliver a country that actually works for the American people. Donald Trump promised to love and cherish Medicaid. Instead, Republicans enacted the largest cut to Medicaid in American history. That's unacceptable. Republicans falsely claim now to be the party of health care, but their policies are closing hospitals, nursing homes, and community-based health centers all throughout the country. That's unacceptable. The Trump administration is giving $20 billion to bail out a right-wing wannabe dictator in Argentina. But Republicans are unwilling to spend a dime to provide affordable health care to working-class Americans. That's unacceptable. The American people deserve better. You deserve better. It's time to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits. It's time to prevent tens of millions of Americans from experiencing dramatically increased health care premiums. It's time to make sure that every single American can afford to go see a doctor when they need one. It's time to reopen the government and stand by our hardworking, patriotic federal workers, and it's time to do all of that right now. No further delay. House Republicans need to get back to work.
All right, Tony, so we've been listening to House Speaker Mike Johnson and House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries from earlier today talking about the shutdown, still pointing fingers, not to make light of a very serious situation, but from a messaging standpoint, the Democrats having to deal with Mother Nature, as you heard there, because that wind was loud in the background.
You know, it's funny. I do a lot of content from the tidal basin, and as the airplane's going and the wind's blowing with the water there, I mess up too. Minority Leader Jeffries, use a DJI mic like I do. Makes things a lot easier for both sides. Suggestion, DJI or a Rode mic, it's easy, folks.
Full of good
Simple,
advice.
Okay? You don't want that wind. The wind is the worst. But what I noticed today is both sides, yes, they're saying it's the same spirit of things, but they're getting very granular now. So you look at Speaker Johnson talking about, okay, who's it going to impact? Not just the federal workers, but again, we're coming close to the 15th, the 31st potentially. What does that look like for mortgage payments, the rent? He's starting to get very granular and tangible. When you look at Minority Leader Jeffries, and he's talking about now one of the biggest things that, as someone who analyzes this a little bit, they hadn't done enough of it before. It's talking about the Argentina bailout of $20 billion. Usually, you see the more conservative side talk about, hey, this is Democrats spending money to send $6 million overseas to this, and of course they made a big thing about, of course, USAID. That was a big thing that Republicans hammered Democrats on when they were shutting it down. Okay, like Democrats spend money frivolously overseas. Now Democrats are trying to pin that on Republicans. So both are really digging in on granular stuff because they've run out of the regular talking points, which makes sense on day 14. What's interesting also is when you look at the structure of this shutdown. Usually, and I look on X, this is a couple times I've seen this, where during a shutdown or the fight when they had the debt ceiling issues the last couple of years, there was always some chatter going on. Some negotiation, whether it be maybe Axios or Jake Sherman at Punchbowl or Politico would have things on X talking about, hey, these 4 members are getting together to form a group to bring a bill to the floor, or negotiations are going behind scenes and things like that, backroom deals. We're not seeing any of that. It's radio silence. Now, a little bit more of some movement tonight. We are seeing behind the scenes a couple people with knowledge of the situation, anonymous, of course, off the record. We have Politico's article on this. I have the paper, actually. I'm reading the paper now. Look at that. The great reporter there, Mr. Ben Guggenheim, who had a wonderful piece this morning talking about that there are some potential deals happening on the ACA subsidies, because we're starting to see that fragmentation in the Republican Party. One of the leaders of the MAGA wing, in Marjorie Taylor Greene, going on Tim Dillon's podcast the last couple of days saying, hey, I'm going to fight for these ACA subsidies because my kids are impacted by it, her construction business is impacted by it, her district. So this is starting to fragment. I don't think the Medicaid issue will ever get a light of day, but I do feel that the ACA credits could, because they're negotiating potentially a piecemeal deal of extending the tax credits, having potential an out-of-pocket premium payment system to make sure those costs are not too high when the premiums go up this year. Because again, we're getting to November almost. That's when the open enrollment starts for ACA. I should know that. I'm on the ACA exchanges, and because I'm in a kind of a middle to higher tax bracket, there's not a ton of relief. I don't mean to. I don't mean to say
Oh,
like
I
that.
had to, Tony. Listen,
that wasn't
you
the goal of
mentioned November. Obviously,
Yes.
November also election month. We are
Yes.
getting closer and closer. Just about 3 weeks to go. So coming up on the other side of the break, we are going to talk about the Virginia election. The attorneys general, I
Yes.
should say, candidates facing off tomorrow night. We're going to talk all about that. Also, Fox 5's Jim Loke talked to current Governor Glenn Youngkin all about the current race and much more. He'll give us a little sneak preview of that coming up. We're going to take a quick break, though. We're going to be right back. Before we head to break, though, I just want to say I've seen a couple people pop into that Zoom room. I'm still getting used to it. If you are in there, hang out. Turn your camera on. We'll call on you. We can bring you into the conversation. Also, Freddie, I see you watching on YouTube right now. Thank you for watching. Thank you for the comment. And Tony P says hello.
Yes.
We're going to take a quick 2-minute break, and we will be right back. All right, welcome back to the Live Zone Primetime
Yes.
here on this Wednesday night. Producer Chris, Tony P, just about 9:36 on this Wednesday night. We're flying right along.
I mean, this show flies. We're getting our flow together. You know,
does.
the analysis sections. Like we're getting that pace, my friend. We're feeling like smooth jazz.
All right, that's the way I'd like to hear it. All right, in the meantime, let's talk. We're going from the nation's capital to battleground Virginia now, because coming up tomorrow, it is a big night. 3 weeks away from Election Day, but tomorrow night, the candidates running for Attorney General will debate for the first and only time. Let me get my banner here, Tony. All right, there we go. It says Battleground Virginia, so I know I'm on the right page. Democrat Jay Jones and Republican incumbent Jason Miyares will go head-to-head at the University of Richmond. Jones is expected to face questions, tough questions, about that text message controversy that we have been following for weeks. To current Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin all about that controversy, and the governor had some harsh words for the top candidate on the Democrat ticket. Take a listen.
Abigail Spanberger can't bring herself to show the courage and moral clarity to ask Jay Jones to step down. She wants him to serve as Attorney General. Can you imagine? Can you imagine this guy serving as Attorney General? And for Abigail Spanberger not to have the courage to say, you need to step down, I think is reflective of the fact that she will not lead.
So that was Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin. Now, Jay Jones has resisted those calls to step aside. He had been leading in most polls before that scandal broke. So, Tony, I want to come to you first. Jim will join us here in just a second, but talk to me about what you're anticipating from this debate. Obviously, we watched some of the gubernatorial debate last week, and
A lot of fireworks.
A lot of fireworks,
Exactly.
and you know, we'll have to wait.
A lot of
and see.
interrupting, a lot of non-answers.
That's right.
It was reminding me of the 2020 debate cycle way back when. What's interesting, I'll tell you this on a positive note, it's going to be an incredibly well-run debate because it'll be at the University of Richmond, my alma mater. I'll actually be there on Friday in the afternoon, which will be great. But I'll tell you, it's hosted actually the first ever town hall debate in 1992 between Clinton and Perot and Bush at the University of Richmond in the gym there. So really cool. But I'll tell you this debate, I'm interested to see what the attack lines are from Jason Miyares. And what does he go with? Is it more of a personal attack? Does he go with something potentially about more the policy side? This man can't protect you because he doesn't like you, for example. But that language that Jay Jones used was very, very just poor just on all levels. And it has a lot of folks in the Democratic Party figuring out, was this the right nominee in the first place? So it was a very tight primary. However, when you look at the polling for lieutenant governor and governor, it's still somewhat stable, about 2 points drop from both candidates. But Jay Jones's numbers have dropped by about 6-7% in the last week. It could potentially be 2 out of 3 for Democrats, where you haven't seen that in about 10 or 15 years, having a kind of a mixed government, if you will. So a lot of things riding tomorrow night. I sense it's going to be a lot more fireworks even than when you saw Winsome Sears versus Abigail Spanberger, because you have a really clickbaity, just a really awful moment to work off of.
All right, well, let's bring Jim Loke in now, Final Five host. He's the one who talked to Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin all about that. We're going to share some microphones here because we're still.
I'm also going to have to crouch down a little bit, I guess.
Yeah, I mean,
with this setup right now.
I'm more than happy to offer you my chair, but
That's
in the
okay.
meantime, Jim,
Yeah, wait.
talk
let's
to us.
loosen that up a little bit there.
Yeah, all right.
I
mean, you can go straight up lapsies here. So stand
what do you
by
think?
while I zoom out.
Yeah, let's
here
just
a
a
little
little bit. Okay.
It's coming. It's coming. All right. In the meantime, Jim.
Yes.
Talk to us about tomorrow night's Virginia Attorney General debate.
Okay.
And what you're anticipating.
You know what I'm going to do? Let me. Actually, I'm just going to do you a little better.
Ooh, okay.
Because I just noticed.
Oh, very nice.
There we go.
Oh, look at this.
This is what we call.
That's why
all
they pay him the
This is
big
called-
bucks.
Making all the fly
That's
here.
why they pay him the big bucks.
There you go.
Yeah,
There you
baby.
go.
Oh, this feels more comfortable now.
Yeah. All right. That's what I like to say.
I like it.
We'll make this work.
This is like geometry class.
Geometry class.
Yeah, like kinda
oh,
like
fitting everything in here.
Right. Like,
Yeah.
like puzzles.
Okay, so we're talking about the debate tomorrow, right?
Yes.
We're talking about the debate tomorrow.
So I talked to Governor Youngkin yesterday. We put the whole thing on. The whole thing's on the Fox Local app now. You can find more on the Final Five tonight at 11:30. And yesterday we talked a lot about education because that's been a big thing, but we did talk about Jay Jones, and the governor certainly did not mince words talking about where he thinks he says he believes the momentum in the entire race has shifted, and I think the polling doesn't necessarily flesh that out. But polls are polls.
Right.
They only capture a certain sentiment in a certain period of time. People know who Jason Miyares is. People certainly know who Jay Jones is now, based on this whole scandal. Actually, interestingly enough, guys, I talked earlier today with Ghazala Hashmi, who is the lieutenant governor nominee for the Democratic Party.
Right.
We were supposed to talk with her last week. We had her scheduled last Monday. What happened over the weekend? The Jay Jones controversy blew up. So they said there was a scheduling conflict. I think we had scheduled that about 3 weeks out. So I said, okay, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt, but they did reschedule to today. And the first question I said was, Jay Jones, how is this going to impact the race? How is this going to impact what you're doing right now? And she seemed to be pretty, I think they had enough time to finesse the message.
Yes.
So I'm curious to see tomorrow. That's going to be the first thing that comes up in this debate is the text message controversy. How could that not be? That was the first thing I asked Senator Hashmi in the interview, because that has just taken up so much oxygen in the room. But the reality is, in her case, all she is really at liberty to talk about is the reaction. Is she comfortable with him still on the ticket there? When we see what plays out tomorrow, Jason Miyares has a lot of ammo that he can use in this, and rightfully so. The question is it a matter of him being too weak, Jay Jones being too weak, as Miyares' attack ads have said, or is he a dangerous menace, which is what has been the other line with the text message controversy?
So we listened to the soundbite of the governor talking about the top of the ticket and him basically calling Abigail Spanberger out for not condemning more harshly Jay Jones's message, not kicking him off her ticket. Talk to me a little bit about the governor's point of view when it comes to the top of the ticket race.
Well, I think obviously what this is for Governor Youngkin is about legacy, first and foremost, because in Virginia, it's one and done. You can run for governor for one term, then you could sit out 4 years, but Terry McAuliffe found out it's not. I think there's only been 2 governors that have ever done that through the years.
Yeah, and most haven't.
So first and foremost for Governor Youngkin, he wants to see Winsome Sears win, because it would be a validation of his policies. And if you want to talk about big picture, it also means that Glenn Youngkin may feel some wind at his back if he wants to run for bigger office. I would say bigger office, not necessarily the presidency, or I would say more likely the presidency than a Senate seat. Mm-hmm. That being said, he's going to take any opportunity he can, because Spanberger is still well in the lead. There was an outlying poll from Trafalgar Polling that was reported on by another station in the market that said it was a 2-point race. I think it's going to be a tight race. Regardless of what you see there. Well, here's the thing, though. I don't know necessarily. I think the most damning thing that's going to come out, that has come out, is that moment from the debate. Because if people didn't watch any of that debate, and there's a good chance that so many voters in the Commonwealth did not give a damn about that debate.
True.
But the one moment where Winsome Sears put Abigail Spanberger on the spot, asking about that comment, and Spanberger did not, because to the most part during that debate, she did not take the bait. But in that moment where she wasn't saying anything, and gave Winsome Sears that window to say, Abigail, you wouldn't do this if this were your daughter, if these were your daughters? Abigail, that's getting a lot of play, and understandably so, but that is just such a
we're talking about the debate over bathrooms, transgender.
Right, yes.
You talked to the governor about that too, so I do want to take a quick listen to that, and then we'll get your reaction on the other side.
If we need different bathrooms, go build new bathrooms for folks. But at the end of the day, the safety of our children is what we're talking about here. And as parents, all parents in Northern Virginia want their children to be safe.
You know what caught me about this one?
Yeah.
This soundbite? He's the first candidate, the first politician who has said there is a third option here.
Yes.
Build new bathrooms.
I caught that too.
Build new bathrooms. And I think if you listen to it on its own, it sounds like a very trivial bite there. Mm-hmm. But that's that's a pragmatic response.
It is.
In that, how many places do you go to now where you do have I don't know what they used to call them unisex bathrooms. I don't know, non-gender. I don't know what they call them now.
In universities and high schools.
So I think that I even talked with somebody from a very prominent LGBTQ organization. I said, "What do you think about that?" He goes, "Yes, great.
Yes.
If that's about safety, then okay, you can roll with that there." But I think that's where Governor Youngkin has been successful, in that he has not been somebody who's going to toe the line of what the White House says, because he was not very tight with President Trump, even though they've had a much better working relationship. So I think that was a really interesting reply that I don't even think not a lot of people thought about that. But I don't think that. I think by and large the focus is you have to find some sort of a compromise, and if that's it, then I don't know, so be it.
Right. I remember who also mentioned something similar to that in 2015, and on the Today Show was against the North Carolina bathroom restriction bill. It was candidate Donald Trump.
Yeah.
So there's always, it seems, been some wiggle room a little bit when it comes to this issue, and Glenn Youngkin just kind of not gave it away, but opened it up a little.
You remember that the whole debate? And so that's why they lost the NBA All-Star game,
right?
And
in Indiana too, the Indiana issues.
But the thing, and actually that was a whole episode of Veep. I think the finale of Veep was all about the North Carolina bathroom bill, and that sort of propelled her to the presidency in Veep.
It always comes full circle.
Exactly, right, exactly.
No, like culture and politics. I mean, that's really, really interesting.
Let me ask you one more question,
Yep.
Jim. We're taking a live look at the White House and the Capitol right now. Obviously, this is a major race, and it comes on the heels of everything happening in Washington, D.C., the shutdown, all of President Trump's policies. How much of this race will be a referendum on what's happening in the nation's capital and not just what's happening statewide?
Well, I mean, when you look at the history, generally, this is the first big race after a presidential election. And so when you see, by the way, if you heard that at home, you heard the beeping, that's the AP alert, and that means something might be happening.
The new symbol to immediately
Look
check.
at the computer.
Immediately check the
We're
computer.
all in tune.
We had a moment for a while. There was they were releasing the wheat prices every day at 5 o'clock, and there's a sound above that, the bulletin, which means some serious stuff has gone down.
Right.
And for some reason, the wheat prices were getting the ultra. We were panicking because that's like the Pope passed away. That's
right.
That's the red alert. A little behind the scenes.
Okay.
Trading places. That reminds me of the whole like doing the wheat and the pork bellies and the Duke brothers. Let's bring them in here.
Only you would make that reference.
It's like, how much you guys make today?
So with where things stand, the Virginia governor's race is really the first big statewide race after a presidential election.
Right.
So when you see when did Glenn Youngkin win? 2021, after Joe Biden took office.
Exactly.
Now there were some differences along the way because in 2016, when Donald Trump took office, who won in 2017? Ralph Northam. 2013. That was the year Terry McAuliffe won. That was a rare outlier because in 2012, that's when President Obama was reelected.
Also, three-way race that year. He had a libertarian.
Oh,
candidate.
that's right. Yeah,
so it was a three-way race. So that was a lot.
This is why I keep them
there.
around.
Right. All that obscure stuff.
Yes.
But this is really, no, seriously though, this is going to be a race that a lot of people use as a bellwether. But there's also there's two governor's races up on the ballot here and in New Jersey. Both races are tight. New Jersey is tighter than probably people thought it should be because President Trump made some big inroads in New Jersey.
Sure did.
So New Jersey might be a state that could potentially flip. There's currently a Democratic governor who's been there for 2 terms. There's a congresswoman running named Mikey Sherrill, and there's a lot of parallels to the Virginia race because Sherrill is Sherrill has an Air Force,
national security background,
a military background.
Yep.
And she was elected to Congress the same year that Abigail Spanberger
was.
was.
2018, right?
So our pal Kevin Walling has come on the Final Five and said in the past, forget about Mamdani in New York. Like, those women are going to be the future of the Democratic Party, but you can't be the future of the Democratic Party unless you can prove you can win elections.
Exactly.
So that's one of the reasons people are going to watch Virginia very closely. And the other point about that is the interesting thing about the Virginia race is because what is that a stepping stone to next? Again, you can't run for re-election.
Right.
I can't think of Tim. Well, actually, what are we talking about? The two senators, Tim Kaine and Mark Warner,
they were all
were
governors,
both governors
right,
who ended up in the U.S. Senate. So to put the politics aside there for a second, that's obviously something that's very well considered. But what's interesting with Governor Youngkin is he doesn't have to campaign for himself. He's campaigning for Winsome Sears.
Exactly. But
as he's trying to burnish this reputation and this legacy here, there's nothing that he can do for a legacy other than campaign for Winsome Sears. So I just want to say this, though, about the race. Hashmi's on my show tomorrow. We've had Governor Youngkin on. Mm-hmm. The Abigail Spanberger has been on the Final Five as a candidate for governor 4 times. John Reed, who's the Republican lieutenant governor candidate, has been on the Final Five 3 or 4 times. The only person who has not responded is Winsome Sears, and we're now at 16 requests to her campaign to come on Fox 5. So I think there's you know, and perhaps there's some calculus behind that, but
What do you think that is? Like,
well,
in terms of calculus?
I think the idea is you want to get the turnout in places where you know Republicans are going to show up.
Right.
You know, in Southern Virginia, you know, in Southwest Virginia, Northern Virginia, because watch election every time election night rolls around, and this happened. I even think with Tim Kaine. Tim Kaine was like, for a while this past election night, he was like, it was really tight with Hung Cao, and then eventually once the Northern Virginia votes came in, you know, that lead expanded. So I think what's going to be, if I recall correctly, I was on the desk when Glenn Youngkin was elected, and that was during COVID, when there was still a lot of like remote voting, mail-in voting, and whatnot. They called that race, I want to say, at like 12:30 in the morning. So I'm using that as our bellwether to see what kind of tight race it's going to be. Because, gosh, when was I'm thinking about when Ralph Northam won? It was called earlier in the night.
Yep, at Gillespie.
Against Ed Gillespie.
Oh, it was
right.
a blowout. I think it was 8.5 points that year.
Yeah,
and,
it was because that was again Ed Gillespie, former head of the RNC, former Bush. He had a national profile. So,
he did.
But the difference there is he was kind of like these are different politicians. Winston Sears was in office for like 2 years in the state senate, then didn't run for re-election, didn't run again until 4 years ago for lieutenant governor. Wow. So. Both of them, it's hard to say either of them are a career politician, though. Abigail Spanberger was a 3-term congresswoman. Winston Sears, you know, I think by and large, maybe has 5 or 6 years in elected office. So that's not necessarily the attack line it was always meant to be. Glenn Youngkin never held elected office.
That's right.
Was elected
Carlisle
governor.
Grew in business.
Terry McAuliffe was never elected to public office.
DNC,
Yeah.
Jim,
this is great.
Tell people how they can tune into your show later and catch your full interview.
You can watch. So you can watch the second half of the interview tonight. In this part of the interview with Governor Youngkin, we are talking about the bathroom policies. We're talking about the cell phone policies in schools. Then we pivot to the race for governor and for attorney general as well. So that's where some of the last time was very wonky. Which I think you have to be a little wonky when you talk politics, but tonight is where we talk a little more looking forward there. And by the way, the whole thing's on Fox Local right now, so if you don't want to wait, you can watch it all. 12 minutes. By the way, we're the honest to God, guys, we're the only show. I'm the only show. This is the only show where we can do 6, 7, 8, 12-minute interviews with candidates and get them on the same night. Nobody else is doing that in DC. So
right.
Yeah.
Live Zone Primetime. Jim, thanks so much for making your debut.
Thank you.
And T. Ross, thank you so much for joining the Lion Zoom room. I can't read your comment on the air without fear of an FCC fine, despite the fact we are streaming, but we hear you. We appreciate you. Thanks so much for watching. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back to the Live Zone Primetime. Down to our final 4.5 minutes. I did want to take you back to one quick thing from earlier today, though, Tony P, okay? And I'm going to talk over this in the meantime because you mentioned that Meghan Markle was here in town for a special event. This is the Fortune Most Powerful Women Summit. But take a look at who else was here in town, sitting there right there in the middle. That is pop star slash gold. I believe she is a Golden Globe or Emmy award-winning actress
at least one of those.
for her role in Only Murders in the Building. That is Selena Gomez. She was one of the other high-profile, big-name people honored and featured at this event right here in Washington, D.C. earlier today.
Wow.
Also at that event was D.C.'s own mayor, Muriel Bowser. She talked about a lot of different topics, but one of the things that she did not talk about was whether or not she plans to run for re-election. She said instead that she will make that announcement. She will announce her decision when the time is right. We'll have much more on that event and the mayor coming up tonight on Fox 5 at 10 and 11 o'clock. Tony P, another, I'm going to go ahead and call this another successful Live Zone Primetime.
I would.
Fox 5.
That was a ton of fun, and that lasts like 12 minutes. But interviewing and
right
talking about the governor's race and Jim's great interview with Glenn Youngkin. That was so much fun. We could have went for 30, 40 minutes talking about this
easily
stuff. Because it's
especially
funny.
the two of you nerding out over
well,
it. I'm
because
gonna call a spade here.
I went to
I
U of R, and I worked in Baltic.
I was useless,
No,
but
you
that's
asked great
where
questions.
we complement each other.
Yes, we
That's
do.
where we complement
You were
each other.
wonderful,
There are
my
going to be
friend.
some areas. Listen, I do want to touch on one thing. Taylor, I saw you in the Zoom room as well. I saw a couple other names in the Zoom room. I do appreciate you guys scanning that QR code, even if you're just curious of where it leads to. But we're going to set a couple ground rules. If you log into the Zoom room, I have two requests. Cameras on, mics off. We'll bring you into the conversation once we check in with you during a commercial break, and then we'll have some fun. So
please, yes.
Thank you for scanning it. Thank you for tuning in. Not sure how you guys found us. Maybe through this guy.
Maybe.
But we'll do this every night, 9 to 10 o'clock. This is our soft launch week, so we're only on YouTube.
Exactly.
Coming up here in just once we work out some of our kinks, we're going to be live on Fox Local as well. So a couple different ways to stream.
All your TVs, Tubi, everything, Samsung channels. You'll
And
find
every
it there
single
too.
night's going to be a little bit different because it'll totally depend on what's happening live, what's happening now, and what happened that day. Who we have popping in to join us. You'll just have to watch to find out. Tony P, thank you as always.
Thank you, my friend. Well
We
done.
did it.
A lot of fun.
We did it. That was a terrible DAP, but
I know,
we'll work on that as well. That's one of the
We
kinks
can't
we're
get
gonna
everything
work on.
right,
Can't get them all right every single time. We're going to leave you now. Coming up, Josh Rosenthal, the latest on that No Kings protest. Sydney Persing will join us live as well. Coming up here in just a few minutes over on Fox 5. For Tony P, I'm producer Chris. We'll see you
Take
again
care, folks.
tomorrow.